Yo, what's good, boys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show 25 video, and as you can see, we are rating your teams again. So, didn't really plan on doing one this soon after the last one, but we got so many submissions. If I don't do it right now, we're not getting to everybody. So I'm going to try to do people after April 19th. We're going to make an exception here because my guy Skunk here submitted in the past and we couldn't get to him, I guess. So hopefully we can get to them now. So if you guys enjoy the content, feel free to like and subscribe on these videos. There's always a ton of people wanting to know how to submit theirs. The link is down in the description to my email. So just send me your team and we'll get you in. So send me his lineup structure first. Not gonna worry about it too much. Finna have Santander soon. Spent most of his stubs in investments. And he is Ohtani away from Hodges. Any changes? So pretty solid team here. I don't mind it. You got what? 4 lefties. So I think that's probably one more than what I would personally have out there. Plus, just my initial reaction would probably be I'd rather have Acuna than say Suzuki personally. And I would rather have Tatis than both of them. So that's something to think about there. I don't think you include your rating, so I don't know necessarily what you're looking like there. Starter wise, get Johan out. He's horrendous. Other than that, you can rock with that bullpen. Nothing wrong with it. Or starting rotation. Now we're on the bullpen. Again, don't like Presley a ton just because the speed differentials aren't really there. But other than that, everybody I feel like is serviceable. 4 lefties is a lot. And you've got 3, so I'd probably cut back if you substitute Johan with another lefty. If you put a righty in there, then I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. So I think this team is probably like a 8, just like a flat 8, without having like the main collection done, and without having a lot of the more expensive chase cards like Brian or Randy or stuff like that. I think this is relatively towards the top of where you can be with like a default team, basically. All right, so next up we got my guy Cameron here. All right, so has a good amount of collections done because he's got Finley, he's got Kipnis, he's got Napoli. So I'm gonna assume he probably also has O'Day in the bullpen since he has Judge and has Santander. Doesn't mean a ton, but has Don Baylor, so he's got the AL West done. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Clemens, to be 100% honest. I don't mind the lineup. You've only got, what, 2, 3 lefties, so you're in a good spot there. And then the rest are attachments. He sends lineup structure. So assuming we don't change stuff, we might review that. So I was right. We have a Clemens, we have a Perry, an Arrieta, a Al Wider, and Dollander. I mean, on a budget or like only sprinting through live series, I mean, that's about as good as you're going to do without going like significantly out of your way for like a John or a Randy or even like a mid-tier pitcher. So that's about as good as you're going to do chasing live series. And then we've got his bullpen here. Other than this Liam Hendricks, I feel like, and Class A. It just depends on your rating, but like having Napoli in the starting lineup tells me that you're probably at most on Hall of Fame, I would think. So don't really feel like Class A serves a point in this bullpen. Hendricks has a little more value because his release is funky, but he just throws like such a default pitch mix that I could see him being all right. And then structure-wise, I'd probably flip Santander and Marte, but I can see the argument if you're one of the guys that just want like your best hitters at the very top of your lineup so that you get the most at bats. Cool, but I feel a little more comfortable with Marte's speed and I feel like higher contact and clutch than Santander in that 2 spot to try to avoid those double plays. But other than that, like that's pretty much how I would structure the lineup. J-Ram 7th is kind of crazy. But he doesn't play up every day, so I don't hate it. This is probably an 8.5. If the last team was an 8, I feel like it makes sense as an 8.5. He has a true ace because he has Roger Dunn. And he's starting to get through some of the NL. He's got some of the better NL cards, like Marte. So it's not bad. I think the bullpen has some weird names in there that could knock it down to an 8. But I think we're feeling generous. I think this is an 8.5. It's a pretty good team. Especially if that last team was like mostly Hall of Fame, which it seems like it was, Hall of Fame All-Star. All right, so we got our goated lineup here from Kyle. Simmons, Santander, Bazana, Seager, Bregman, Ortiz, Trout in the left, Tatis in right, Belly in center field. So I don't like Belly in center field. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I just don't think he's fast enough or doesn't have... Like, I feel like if this card had 99 reaction, I could live with the speed. But being slower than Roman Anthony, who I already noticed was like subpar defensively for what you'd want from a center fielder, I'd almost rather just run Trout in center, assuming you have him super fractured, and just have the higher speed. But it's really up to you. 2 lefties there, 3 there, 4 there. So I think you're 1 lefty over where I would probably be. And I think I would personally still probably prefer Jordan over Ortiz. That could change with the roster update. But I don't hate the lineup. Let's see what the... Oof. Now this, not a huge fan of. Is Wandy really like that? I mean, I feel like the Padres have... I did a Padres team earlier in the year, and they have some better bullpen arms than this. Like, you could have Bobby Sanchez. I believe they have a foreign pitcher. I don't know if he's like Japanese or Korean. I forget which. I think his name's... I don't know. I don't want to say... I don't want to sound crazy. But he is a lefty, and he has a very nice pitch mix that would fit in pretty nicely. And then they also have Estrada with a hard splitter and a hard slider that you could work in. So I think there's better, cheap Padres options in your bullpen. Don't like Mark Davis. Don't love Kenley. And then I think Musgrove in general is just not great. And maybe you're running that for Tatis, I guess, to make him a little more serviceable. Don't think you'll have to worry about that come first roster update. And then the definition of pretty much a ballin' on a budget starting staff, it doesn't really get much better than this without you investing like significant capital into your starters. So not bad. I feel like you're making it happen. It's probably like a 7. Because I think there's one too many lefties for me. I probably wouldn't be running Bellinger. I think the bullpen's like bordering on a disaster. And then I just don't know about a Musgrove boost. Plus, I'm not a huge fan of Roki. I mean, it just depends on your difficulty. Without knowing the difficulty, it's kind of hard to judge a lot of this stuff. All right, so next up, we got Lake. Anytime I get 2 emails, it kind of kills the point of the color bar, but it works. All right, so screenshot. 450K, does not want to get rid of PCA. Working on getting John Donaldson. I wish Josh was still in the game. And he said he's World Series, so it doesn't tell me a ton because it means he could be on Legend if he gets close to 900. I feel like if you're at World Series this early in the season, there's a good chance you will be at 900 at some point. So we'll take Legend into consideration. Trying to think of who the Cubs... Okay, Cubs team affinity. I was trying to think. It's Soriano, right? So you're just probably not running him. Wouldn't be a terrible boost, but you just have to eat Soriano. So don't really love that. So Ortiz, Mookie, Lindor, PCA, Dansby, Juan, Pendleton at third with 500K in the bank's kind of crazy. But I guess there aren't a ton of... I mean, J-Ram would just be better, like 100%. So, I mean, I get if you want to wait till after a roster update. I'm not entirely sure how J-Ram's season has gone. I know he had a 3 home run game, but other than that, I feel like it's been pretty quiet. But if you feel confident he won't get downgraded, wouldn't be the worst card to go get. Tucker in, so we've got, what, 2, 3, 4 lefties. And you said you don't want PCA out, but you also said that you wanted a new first baseman. So I feel like that's easier said than done. I feel like all of the free options for first base are like Ortiz, Stan Musial, players like that. I feel like there's not really a great righty free first baseman. So you'd probably have to invest in that. And so I think we might have to be going to show zone for this, to be honest with you. It's off the dome, other than like Gil Hodges or, I mean, Santander, like you're going to have to do it anyway. Yeah, I'm not even going to go check. You're going to have to do Santander anyway if you do have any aspirations of eventually getting the collection that's coming out on the 25th. So might as well just, I don't know how much it is right now. I wonder if I could do like a fresh show zone account and see. But I would think it's not more than 100K at this point with how cheap a lot of the new threats players are. So you could go get Santander and J-Ram, and I feel like your team would instantly be more competitive. I'm not the biggest fan of Dansby, but it kind of depends on how great you hit with them. There's not a ton of more awesome shortstop options. What I would probably do personally is just start Ellie at shortstop. And then if it's a lefty, then you bring in Dansby. But if not, you can just rock out with Ellie. You'll get better shortstop defense, and he will mash righties for you. So that's probably what I would do, would be platoon your shortstops. Pitching staff. P4 Johan. That is crazy. Trying to think. Yeah, I don't see a world where he's like super good. So I'd probably prioritize getting rid of him. Scooball's kind of tough because if you use like pinpoint, he's going to get janky with runners on base and the clutch isn't good. So he's going to give your opponent a bigger PCI when it matters the most, which I feel like sucks. Musina, I've grown to like. Paul Skeens, I still hate. So you're kind of in the same spot that a lot of people are, where you're just kind of lacking like a true ace in your rotation. If you don't have Clemens, if you don't have John, if you don't have Randy, if you don't have one of those three, you don't really have an ace. And a lot of people are like that right now. So I feel like you're making the most out of what you got. Bullpen wise, P5 Strom, we got a ball nowhere here. Hobie, Class A, the new Soto, so that's what, 3 lefties is a good number. P4 Griffin Jacks, hurts my soul. But I feel like everybody serves a purpose. If you get the legend, then yeah, Class A. But on Hall of Fame, I don't think he's shrinking the PCI enough to where it actually matters to justify using him. But I mean, if you're like bordering on 900 rating, then I kind of get it. But other than that, I probably wouldn't. So I'd probably give this team like an 8. There's no like Trout. There's no crazy collection reward. But I feel like you're making it work with what you got. So respect for that. There's really nothing to do about the pitching staff. No, Marte's kind of crazy, but if you never put parallels on him, then I get it. He does look pretty subpar, especially to bring him now. I mean, there's a world where you could just go get Marte play second and then move Lindor to third base if you really want to do that. Just kind of workshopping. All right, next up we got my guy Lou, who wanted me to know that he pulled Bobby Witt. So let's see, anything 120K. He pulled Bobby Witt. Who knows if he bought packs for that or if he just earned them. Yeah, so this is a war crime. I don't know what we're doing here. So that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't look like you have a bunch of great defensive outfielders. I like this rotation. This is a pretty good rotation. Like, so that's going to be Kopech. Don't like Class A. If you're running this long, if you're getting away with Soto in center field, that tells me all I need to know to where you shouldn't be running Class A. But other than that, I don't really mind it. And then you said you have Bobby at shortstop and what? Whit Merrifield at center field. So no more Soto in center field. So that's progress. I'm going to trust that you took out Jose Bautista and put him in right field because he's just too good. I'd rather play Jackie at shortstop than Carson Williams. But if you're going to keep Bobby Witt is probably better than both of them. I'd probably sell him if you don't plan on getting live series done. If you do, then congrats. That's a huge pull. It's just kind of tough. I don't really know like what direction you're going with your team because you have Ted Simmons, but you don't have any other collection rewards in the team. I see Mr. Perry here, so I guess you locked in You locked in for J-Ram, which means you're probably close to Kipnis, who doesn't really make the team unless you want to move Marte to short. But then you have Bobby Witt, who you've locked in for Whit Merrifield. So I guess you're just working on AL Central, which is fine. I don't really know how great that Kipnis is going to fit into your team. So just kind of a mixed bag. I think this is like a solid 7.5. I think the strongest part of this team is the rotation. I don't mind this rotation. You can win games with it. The bullpen is pretty good, other than probably Mark Davis in Class A. I think it's just your lineup. Like, it's kind of all over the place. I mean, if you rake with all of these guys, then it works. I like Jordan Lawler probably more at shortstop. You've got Bobby Witt now. I probably would have sold Witt personally and just gone for a different collection first, but it's up to you. I see both sides of it. Decent little team there. All right, next up we got Caleb. First show, first year getting into baseball. Okay. Wondering what changes, who to buy, not no money spent, so no budget. Well, you should still have a budget. Still have a budget. Just don't go like crazy. So we got Teddy Ballgame, PCA, Oliva. So Oliva's a problem. And your lefties are looking like a problem because I see 3 here. All right, that's not bad. It's probably not the 3 lefties I would necessarily choose to go opt for, but it's not bad. So I don't hate it. I feel like these 3 are cool. Bazana's like borderline cool. Walker needs to go. Oliva needs to go. Ivan Herrera, you can do some work with him. And then these 2. So you got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. So half your lineup's cool. I don't mind it. The other half needs some work. So we'll just. I feel like, for me personally, I would compare like similar guys. I'm not gonna tell you to go get Gil Hodges at first base. So like Santander, like if you got stubs like that, but I feel like if you're playing Oliva in right field, you probably don't. So I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy the stubs to get Santander. Here we go. Jake Berger for like 3.5K or whatever he is. Put in Jake Berger at first base. He's going to be better than that Walker for sure. Let's see. DH. I mean, Jeter should not DH. He just doesn't have the bat for it. If you want to play him at shortstop, cool. If it's like one of your favorite players or if it's just somebody that you know, then like it's a cool name to have in the squad, but the bat does not warrant him being at DH. So I would get him out for just any decent hitter. And then in right field, we got some work to do there. I feel like there's some pretty good budget right field options. So like you can go grind the I mean, you can get this Larry Doby for free. I feel like he'd be a pretty good card. You can, this Riley Green wouldn't be awful. Both of those are lefties though, so a little scary. Christian Campbell, honestly, for like 8K, you cannot go wrong with this card. Like 8 to 12K, whatever he is right now. I'd probably get Christian Campbell, play him in a secondary of right field. And then Matt Shaw at third base, I'm not a huge fan of. But third base is kind of a hard spot to find people for right now. So we'll just hop through. I mean, Kobe Mayo sticks out for like 1,500 subs. You can't really go wrong with him. Or this Alex Bregman, which you should already be somewhat close to if you have Christian Walker. So I would probably go for this Bregman at third base. I think that overhauls most of your lineup and gets you in a better spot there. Starting staff, this is like a brand new account, isn't it? So you already got Corbin Burns too. So if you don't have him locked in, I'd probably just sell him and go get like a bunch of other New Threads players that are cheaper than him and just lock in for, if not Santander, then at least for like Chapman, because you're probably going to need him in the bullpen. Roki's terrible, but has like a role on All-Star. Andy Cooper's whatever. Springs is kind of underrated, but will probably be terrible on All-Star. Webb, pretty bad. Burns, pretty bad. So I want to see some Noah Schultz. Would like to see some like Garrett Crochet, just like the super budget options. Even like Hagen Smith will probably be better than Andy Cooper and Jeffrey Springs. And then Logan Gilbert would be a really good like web alternative. I don't want to like construct the team from a bottom up. Not really the point of this series. This card, Sean Helly, however you say it. People said you pronounce the J. That just seems weird to call him Jelly, but we'll call him Jelly. Honestly, underrated card, assuming you're doing your pinpoint well, and Strom really good. The rest of the bullpen can pretty much get rinsed out for about every gold in the game. Like, every gold not named Kirby Yates for the most part. Like, Yimi Garcia should be in here. Jeff Hoffman, the usual suspects. But not bad, but I am just going to give it like a 4, just because it's basically a starter team. It's pretty much, other than PCA, this is just kind of, other than PCA and Dansby, this is kind of just the team you have when you log on with some pre-order rewards. So you got some work to do, but there's definitely some potential there. All right, next up we got Will. He just said bullpen guy with no pitchers, Kopech. Do know that. Don't know why he displays incorrectly. So we got Trout in center field. I'm not the biggest fan. If he gets a good jump, he's cool. If he's super fractured, you know, helps a little bit, but not the biggest fan of it. Switch these two. Thank me later. Other than that, it's a pretty good lineup. You got what, 1 lefty, 2 lefties, and they're 2 very good lefties. And then you got Ellie on the bench. Honestly, what I'd maybe consider is, again, platooning Ellie, starting him at shortstop, and then if it's a lefty, then I would personally move Cattell to shortstop and then put Mookie in to play second base. But it's kind of up to you. Starting staff, pretty good other than Holiday, who's absolute trash, but you might be running the Blue Jays boost. I'm not sure. Doesn't look like it, because you'd probably have Yimi and Hoffman in the bullpen. Bullpen wise, yeah, nothing wrong with it. I don't mind that bullpen at all. This seems probably another like 8.5. Super solid team. Not a huge fan of the center field defense, but not bad. I mean, if you like Manny more than JD, I don't blame you. Manny's got like every quirk and similar hitting stats, whereas JD just has like the better stats. So those guys are pretty much like even. And if you just want to like platoon JD, leave Jordan in if it's a righty, and then bring in JD if it's a lefty, then I don't hate that at all. Some pretty solid teams today. All right, we got the Glizzy man here. So better than ever. All right, let's see. So 2, 3, 4 lefties. Babe Ruth in a secondary is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we're not just putting Manny in left. Super fractured Manny's gonna play better defense than Babe Ruth by a mile. So if you really want Ruth, either DH him or replace Ortiz. Trying to make a World Series push, so like I don't hate Napoli. You got him P4. If that's like a batting 240 with like 40 home runs with him, P4. Maybe look at like Soderstrom for catcher. It would add another lefty, but I think you'd probably hit better with him. Other than that, there's not too many great alternatives other than like Ted Simmons and stuff. Seager purely at shortstop. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I'd rather play him at third if I was going to play him. But then you got to go find a new shortstop, which, again, I like Correa. I like Jimmy Rollins now for the price he is now. I think he was like $35K, but we got new BR rewards, so that might have changed his price a little bit. Also wouldn't hate Jackie, but you've already got like a bunch of small ball people in the lineup. I think I like Jackie more than Pendleton, I think. And then first base, really no, I don't love Ortiz just because if you see a lefty, it just feels like so miserable with him sometimes. But if you're raking with him, then it's cool. So I don't hate the lineup. I think this change will instantly make your team better, just swapping Manny and Ruth. And then I would consider getting a better defensive shortstop with how the game plays, with how many squeakers go up the middle this year. Arrieta, Schultz, CC, Leiter, Roki for like a relatively cheap staff. Again, if you're not getting an ace, like if you don't have Clemens, Randy, John, you're not getting an ace. What are we doing here, man? What are we doing here? I feel like the new threats Chapman is just like, if you're going to run a Chapman, might as well have him. I feel like he doesn't cost that much to get anymore, since basically all the golds are quick sell value. So might as well just upgrade him in my eyes. And then I hate Mark Davis, especially when you're premier lefties. Like if he's like the 4th lefty in your bullpen, cool. But as like a premier lefty, I feel like I'd rather have a good amount of other people. Like I think I'd probably rather have Silver Danny than him, probably. Other than that, like Strom, Chapman, Franco, like Team Infinity Franco, I'd probably rather have than Mark Davis. I feel like they do similar things, except Franco's probably just better. So if you actually make a World Series push, I would probably do some of that. But I mean, it's not a bad team. Just like this outfield is kind of disgusting defensively, because like Trout's gonna get some bad jumps. Babe is a statue out there. I'd rather have Manny and the arm strength, and Manny's just a lot faster in general. And then PCA is just not gonna do awesome with, like, forget exactly what speed he has. I think he starts at like 75 and then you parallel him up. I don't know. I think mine had like 79 for the longest time. So he's all right, but he's not crazy. Again, I'd probably rather have Jackie over Pendleton. But I mean, it's probably like between a 7.5 and 8 is kind of what I want to give it. All right. Next team, we got Isaiah here. 50K stubs, no money spent. Most collection and programs done except for live series. Boy, do I have some bad news for you. That means you pretty much have no collections done, because they will be updated pretty soon. Like, you got your free show packs, but you do not have collections done. All right. So maybe it means like Santander and like the egg hunt. Don't have the egg hunt done. Okay, good. DeGrom is not worth all that. Christian Campbell in center field is certainly a choice. New Polanco at second. I was wondering if he would make an appearance today. Veritek, Yordito. Not bad. We got what? So like 1, 2. Okay, only 2 lefties. 3. Yeah, 3. 3 lefties. Good amount of switches. Some pretty nice righty swings in there. I mean, I don't mind the lineup. I'm not a huge fan of Marcelo actually playing shortstop. I'm not a huge fan of J-Ram actually having to play third base. But you would think the bat would make up for it. And then you got Juan, who I think is probably a top 2 hitter in the game still, at least until a roster update. Starting rotation-wise, we glanced at before. We didn't really look at it. I mean, yeah, for like a budget rotation, I mean, I think I hate Corbin. I hate Bueller, but like when you're on a budget, you're not gonna have the most ideal staff in the world. I mean, I like Leiter for like, I think you could have legit done Leiter for like 20K when the flash sale happened and a bunch of people pulled Vlad. I'm sure he's rebounded now, but I would like Leiter over these last 2 guys, whoever you're less comfortable with. And that will give you another lefty. And then bullpen wise, we got Ursek, Brash. Forgot about this Brash. Not bad card. Nothing crazy, but not a bad card. New Soda. So you got what, 3, 4 lefties. I mean, with your current balance, like, it's acceptable. The bullpen's definitely the strong suit. This is like a very nice bullpen. I don't know if it's the best because there's no like O'Day, but I mean, other than that, a very nice bullpen. To not have collections done. So I think the starting staff could use some improvement. The lineup, I really don't hate. Like, I don't love the defense that Christian Campbell's probably going to play in center field, but there's really no great way to work him in other than, like, you could sell Polanco for whatever he goes for. Get Ozzy Albies, who will probably play at a similar level, assuming you're not on, like, a super high difficulty. And then with the stubs, you could go get like a Brian Reynolds. So I feel like that might be a path you could go, but I mean, if you're like hitting with this team, I don't mind it. Not bad overall though, and like I said, probably the best bullpen you can really have without like doing live series collections. So it's probably like a 7.5. The outfield scares me, having JD, Christian Campbell in a secondary, and Juan Soto in such an important secondary. I should be a little more specific. And then Soto, a little bit scary in the outfield, but I mean, the team looks like it should mash, so you should be putting up enough runs where it shouldn't really matter. That's probably like a 7.5, just because of a lack of like live series collections, and I feel like that's really hurting your starting staff at the moment. All right, next up we got Levi here. We're just gonna read the second one. So now he has Trout, has Napoli a catcher, but he's broke. Interesting. Well, I see Jim Edmonds, so I would probably rather run Trout in center than Jim Edmonds. Going Napoli, locking in Trout when you already had Simmons is interesting. I guess it depends on your difficulty. I probably would rather use Napoli on like All-Star and Hall of Fame, to be 100% honest. New McMahon at third, not bad. Jackie in the left, not my favorite thing to do in the world. I would probably rather, if you're running basically the same outfield, I would rather probably just play Trout and right, play the new PCA since you have him, and then just move Tyler O'Neill back to left, because I'm assuming you really like him if you have him P5, and feel like playing him in the secondary. So that's probably what I would do there. As for your lefty situation, so you got rid of one there. You got 3 here. You got a little triangle over here. And that's a good amount. As long as they're like spaced out in your lineup, they should all mash. They should all be pretty good. Lefty for the most part, or as good as they can be. So I really don't mind that lineup. Like for like a budget team, assuming you're not pushing like legend, I feel like this is pretty solid. Starting staff, we got Leiter, Schultz, Skeens, Arrieta, Bueller. Not bad. Not a huge fan of Skeens, but you already locked him in. So again, I get why you would probably be incentivized to use him. I don't really like this Bueller. A bunch of people pitch good with him. I don't think he's good. But can't knock it if you're doing well with it. And then this bullpen I don't hate, other than Liam Hendricks, another guy with Liam and Mason Miller. Miller has a role as long as you're like deliberate about when you bring him in and you know what you're trying to do with him, then he's cool. Don't really like Liam, so I'd probably just get like a Jeff Hoffman would be like an easy guy to slot in, and he might go diamond, so you might even make some stubs on him. So I don't hate that. You only got what, 2 lefties in your starting staff, so I think 4 in the bullpen might be kind of overkill. But Hobie Milner almost doesn't even count. So not bad. It's probably like an 8. You know, it's kind of missing like either like a Marte or a like Polanco at second base. But I can't really argue with it. Like Mookie Betts for like 45K, or I saw he was 45K one day. If he is still there, it's pretty good value. Assuming he doesn't get downgraded pretty soon. Next up, we were supposed to have John, but his message is either not loading or there wasn't anything included. So on to the next one. All right, next team, we got Kaden here with about 500K. He says his pack luck's been pretty nice. That's always nice to hear. First change instantly without buying anybody. I'd play Lawler and move Seager to third base. And then I'd probably get the new Griffey for center field, because he should just be a better PCA, and the new Griffey is like 25K now. So I feel like for that price, he's a pretty good buy. When you sent me this, he was probably still like 80, 90, 100K. But I'm sure he's significantly cheaper now, and you might even will have earned him by this point. Webb, CC, Bueller, Roki, Arrieta. I mean, it's a mixed bag because like Webb's gonna be better on Hall of Fame, good on Legend, best on GOAT. But then you got a card like Roki where All Star's probably the best he'll ever be. So I'm getting mixed signals out of the starting rotation here. And then we got Trinan, who I'm not a huge fan of, but some people do well with. Mark Davis, who I absolutely despise. And then Suter, who again, if you're at least on Legend, I think he's got some good value. I just don't think he's going to do enough for you on All-Star or Hall of Fame to really be sufficient. So 500K to work with. So we want some suggestions. I think Griffey's pretty solid. Left field's cool. I did not see that Bregman's actually playing DH. That's kind of the weird thing about the mobile pictures. So you probably want a new DH. How many lefties would that be? So he has 3 right now, assuming he goes and gets Griffey and swaps him out for Roman Anthony. So that would be 3. So we're trying to avoid a lefty here. DH. Or if you really want to splurge, you could just go get Brian Reynolds to play for Roman Anthony. And that would give you a switch hitter, which is always valuable. I feel like I'm kind of biased from like the budget team. Like all these teams are good enough to make World Series with. It's a matter of executing. I think mainly your starting staff is kind of your issue. No reason to not dedicate 30K of 500K to go in and get an hour lighter. And then you could even DH Vlad if you really like him, or just play him at first over Ortiz and DH Ortiz. So that's one option that I think doesn't hurt at all to go do. Other than that, like other live series collections I'd be focused on, probably none of them. I feel like your team's really solid without doing them. So I would just kind of save up, and if you get enough subs to knock out the live series, then I would go that route. But other than like Brian Reynolds or Griffey, I don't really know who I would suggest to this team. I guess you could go another outfielder and put Santander at first. I feel like his bat's going to be good enough to where playing him in the outfield isn't the end of the world. So you got options. It's kind of up to you and kind of what direction you want to go. For something like this, I'd probably like a little more direction. Like, I'm not super happy with my right field, or not super happy with first base, just for future reference. But definitely not a bad team by any means. I think this is probably like a 7.5, 8, somewhere in that range, where like there's some flaws, but for the most part, pretty good team. All right, so we got Micah, who I think I reviewed before, but I could just be wrong. Third time in the team, 914 rating, took out Ted Simmons for Soderstrom to platoon. Okay, gotcha. 100K. I mean, you could still platoon Ted Williams. I don't know if you'd have to do Soderstrom and Contreras. 100K. Wonder if you should save. Okay, so we have a Beltron. Okay. And we're firmly on Legend. We're over 900 rating. So we're bouncing back and forth between Legend. All right, so we got Soto, Santander, Belty, Hodges. Lindor is kind of crazy on Legend, but I mean, if you like the swing enough, then why not? Sodi. I mean, I would probably just rather platoon Soderstrom with Ted, just because, like, why not just have the switch hitter? But I get if you want to go like a true platoon at the same time. DH and Ramirez is kind of crazy, but you have enough bench bats to where, like, I'm assuming if he's not playing up a ton, then you just pull him anyway. And you have enough bench bats to where you're kind of chilling. I would probably consider running the Justin Martinez boost to help out Marte a little bit, just because he can be a little bit on the struggle bus against righties, and on Legend, that's going to hurt you a little more. The starting staff looks pretty gross. No Randy, but you don't even really need him if you've got this staff. Clemens, Zimmerman, John, Fernando, and Leiter. So, like, a Randy wouldn't hurt. I don't think it's essential by any means, especially when you have some of these guys like John and Fernando that are legit threats to go out there and throw no hitters every game on Legend. So don't mind that. Let's see what the bullpen's cooking with. P5 Hobie. So we have a Hobie enjoyer. A lot of lefties, 4. And you've got 3 in your starting staff. So it's like borderline. Maybe you'd want to find a better balance than that. I don't hate it. I do hate Trevor Hoffman. Okay, so you've already got Martinez in there. I guess you're using a lot of your bench is why. So if you did want to make Marte a little better, probably cut out some of this bench. I don't really know what you would do for the most part. Like platoon J-Ram against lefties with like Seager against righties, I guess a DH, but I'd probably rather just find a DH that I could play full time and get like Trout in the outfield and just DH Santander full time would probably be what I would do. Again, I think Lindor is a little crazy, but at least he's a switch hitter, so you're not gonna have to deal with PCI shrinking the whole time. Just having like true handedness hitters at like Legend and GOAT really hurts you. So the more switches, I feel like the better. But overall, a pretty good team. I didn't really dive into. I like Matt Strahm more than every lefty in your bullpen. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm sure you've tried him. And if you don't like him, then it's cool. But not a bad team. I definitely see how it's 914 rated. 100K stubs. Yeah, I mean, just save. I mean, I think the only suggestion I even gave was like Mike Trout, and you already own that card because you have Beltron. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think you're looking too into it. And this is probably a 9.8. Like if you had Randy, I think that would make it a 10 out of 10. But that's like nitpicking, honestly. Basically the best team in the game. All right, next up we got Jason. Loves content with like suggestions on a roster. Budget team, no stubs, no big live series. So yeah, I mean, if you're mentioning that you pulled Trey Turner and Contreras, yeah, I would say there's none. Solid 500, barely stay above 400. Well, a lot of that is just the natural progression of the rating system. The fact that World Series is 100 points lower kind of pushes everybody 100 points lower. And in the past, you couldn't drop below 400. Now you can drop to like 300, I think. So you're kind of exactly where you were and playing the exact same quality of players that you were. So you're not actually really lower. I'd probably just look more into like your win percentage. So we got Santi in the outfield. Don't love that. I mean, you could swap him and Bellinger and you'd be better immediately. We got what? 1, 2, 3 lefties, but it's not even a deal breaker when you're talking about like that type of rank because a bunch of people don't sweat handedness matchups at those ranks. And when they do, they don't really know how to capitalize on it. And then starting staff wise, I don't hate it. Like Hagen doesn't have a lot of great out pitches on All-Star, but not most pitchers won't. Buchholz, I don't think would be that good on All-Star. Same for kind of Bueller. But really no pitcher. Like even Roger Clemens, Randy, and John, I wouldn't say are great on All-Star. You're still going to give up runs, assuming you're playing somebody that's semi-decent. But yeah, that's just kind of how All-Star works. Like you're going to get hit around, and it's more about just hitting in general. Presley, I don't love. Mark Davis, I don't love. And then Helsley, I don't love, but I feel like a curveball with an outlier fastball at like that rank will probably cook. So I don't really blame you. And we have lineup structure, but again, I'm not going to go too in depth on it because, you know, if you end up overhauling the team, the lineup structure is not really going to matter. So I don't hate it. Just Belly in the outfield would be better immediately. And other than that, I guess I can go over it. So he's got like a traditional structure. Santi should be third. I mean, he's a switch hitter. Should be your best hitter in theory. Roman Anthony should be second. He's just way better than Bellinger. And then I like Labor moving up a little bit because I think he's a stud. And then can't go wrong with Veritek, switch hitter. So the team itself is probably like a 6.5. But I mean, it's good enough at those ranks. It's just more so a skill issue. Just got to get in the lab a little bit. All right, next team up, we got Cooper. He's World Series, 150K. Jose, Bobby Witt away from Beltron. So, yeah, I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy Brian Reynolds or anything when you're that close to Beltron. I would just be all hands on board with saving that. Having this Devers and being that close to Beltron is, how much you say you had? 150K. That's enough for Jose. And then it's a matter of getting Bobby Witt. Like, the moment you are like, what is this Devers? Like 130, 140, and then after tax, you'll probably get like 105 back, 110, something like that. Bro, if you are that close to Beltron, you do not sell this Devers. You are a crazy person. So I don't love that he's in your lineup. And I hope that you recognize that. Especially since you already have Chase Headley. And you can, I mean, first base might be one of the easiest spots in the game to find somebody for. I mean, you could just move Santi to first and put in a new outfielder. Or even, yeah, you can just play Gil Hodges at first and just, yeah, you got options. Like, Devers should not be, if you don't have Beltron, Devers should not be in the lineup anymore. Priorities at that point. Staff, I don't hate. I feel like, so you're on Hall of Fame, I'm assuming if you're a World Series player, because if you're like 900 rated, I feel like you say that. I could be wrong, but like Val, I feel like isn't that great until you make it to Legend. Like, he's good on Hall of Fame, but he's a little more volatile there and not as consistent. And I feel like Sale is probably somebody that you would want to phase out when you do get on the Legends. So bullpen wise, we got Danny, Strom, Whack. This card's terrible. This card's horrendous. I would get him, shoot him into the sun. And then other than that, it's pretty good bullpen, especially after you make it to Legend. A guy like Mason Miller gets a lot more viable. Darren O'Day gets a lot more viable. Yeah, I think I just absolutely hate Wagner, which is your fourth lefty, and you have what? How many starters? You got 3 lefty starters. So, again, it's super borderline. You don't have to have 4. You could just run with 3 and get like a Hoffman or a Yimi in there. Not a huge fan of Yimi. I like Hoffman more, to be honest, but just kind of workshopping some stuff. But I would get Devers out of there. I think this lineup's probably like a 9. I'm taking a full point off because you should have been sold Devers. It should be all hands on deck. Like, you could have sold Devers and ran like 2-3 Diamond Quests and had Beltron. And I'm hoping you have them by the time of this video. But that's just crazy holding on to Devers like that. All right, so we got Colin here, hit Legend. So he got to 900 rated. Can't win on Legend. Ain't that something? If I get World Series, I'm at 760, and then get John and Aaron Judge away from Clemens. Oh, okay. So he's saying he was 760 rated, and he's like the ego away from John Don. Okay, interesting. Judge away from Clemens. All right. So he's saying the starting staff has a chance to be basically overhauled. We got what, 3? Okay, only 3 lefties. That is one of the worst defensive outfields I've ever seen. You got Manny, who's not great by any means. And then you got JD playing in a secondary. So that's pretty disgusting. I mean, it just depends. Like, if you're hitting 400 with every outfielder, then I guess you're cool. And the defense doesn't matter that much. I would probably like to have a slightly better... Like, Soto would honestly be perfect here. Because he'd be a way better defender and just, like, an as good, if not better, hitter. But he would also upset your lefty balance. So, see, you're playing Trout and Jordan, even though they're down. I'd probably, on days Jordan's down, I probably would just throw Ortiz in. Would probably be an easy little solution there. Presley, again, speed differential is just not going to be great. Rizal, I think, sucks. And then David Robertson, if you're not on Legend, I'd probably stay away from. So we got Satchel, Corey, Arrieta, Leiter, Schultz. Corey's going to be pretty volatile if you're not on Legend. Like, he's going to have some Hall of Fame starts that aren't going to be the prettiest. And then some people he'll just shut down. Satchel Paige, not a huge fan of. Is one of your only options with, like, to have outlier that's not like a collection reward or just insanely expensive. So I don't hate him for that reason, but I don't think he's actually a very good card. So I don't hate it. I mean, if you get John and Randy and you want to leave Satchel in for like either Schultz or Arrieta, then I don't really blame you. But it's a pretty good team. He said he got to Legend, so he got to Legend. Most of the Legends just reps. Like, you just gotta get reps. So that either involves losing ranked games or sitting in custom practice. Neither are super fun, but it's pretty much the only way you're gonna get better at it. I would say there is probably more disparity between Hall of Fame and Legend this year than... Not really. Like, okay, so I think Hall of Fame's probably the easiest it's ever been. It was kind of Mickey Mouse last year. I feel like it's the same way this year. I think Legend is scaled back a little bit. So if you're not used to traditional Hall of Fame, that's kind of where a lot of your Legend issues are going to be, because I think Hall of Fame's easier. You play more Hall of Fame than you ever have had to in the past, because you play from like 600 to 899 rated, which is a pretty big gap. And then Legend, yeah, it'll just hit you like a train because it is significantly harder. So just got to speed up, and at the end of the day, it's just reps. All right, next up, we got Bryce here. 400,000 stubs. What would I do in this spot? Initial reaction is the lineup's pretty good, but you got 3 lefties here, 4, 5. So I would get some lefties out, to say the least. You're going to have to probably pick between McMahon and Seager, and then you'll probably have to find a new DH. If you like Tucker, I think the easy solution is bring him into DH and just find a new outfielder. Solera wouldn't be awful for like a free option. Roman Anthony replaced with Griffey. Griffey's just going to be better. I don't hate the team. I would just get some lefties out of there. We're going to start moving a little faster. I want to get some more teams done, but we're already at 50 minutes. So do not like Corbin Burns. Don't like Roki. Depends on your rating, I guess, really, for Roki. Again, all-star. I think he's pretty decent. Other difficulties, pretty trash. So that's Kopech. Robertson, again, depending on your difficulty, probably get him out of there. It's probably like an 8 just cards wise, but then like a 7 because you just gotta think 5 lefties when you're seeing John and Randy a lot. Not gonna be fun. All right, next up we got this team, 160K, 700 to 800 player. Bought Bobby Witt Jr. I'm guessing is what that says. Don't know if I would have advised that. If he was like the last card you needed for the AL, then cool. But I don't know if I would have advised it. Snell has a role to play. Don't like Corbin Burns. Scooball scary with pinpoint. So depending on how well you get along with those guys. And then Class A is Trash A, unless you are on a very high difficulty and you're meta pitching every pitch. So I don't love that. Out of position Bregman at first is insane. The fact that he's just going to legitimately drop some putouts is not something you should. There's a lot of positions you can play with and have out of positions at. I would not advise first base to be one of them. Let me go ahead and take care of this alarm. Yeah, I would not be running an out of position first baseman. That is you asking for trouble. This outfield's also pretty poor defensively. Again, Griffey in for Roman Anthony, probably going to be like the upgrade of the day for most people. And then, dude, just move Santi to first. What are we doing? That's crazy. Yeah, just move Santi to first and find a new outfielder. The team itself's probably like a 7, 8, somewhere in that range. But having it, dude, 5 out of position first baseman's crazy. All right, next up and final team, we're gonna do Ryan. Recognize the name, bro is in stream all the time, so we'll reward him with. I mean, he was actually next on the list anyway, so it's not like I'm skipping people, but we'll do one more. 300K, looking for better 4 and 5 starters. Platoon Manny and Tucker, pinch hit. Big Poppy, bench run, PCA, and Jackie. So bro's using the whole bench. Not a huge fan of Finley in center field. Let's see. So Tucker DH. I mean, he's only got three lefties, so good enough there. Who you say platoons? Like, okay, Manny and Tucker. So if it's a righty, he leaves in Tucker. If it's a lefty, he just rocks out with Manny for the rest of the game. Do not mind that whatsoever. Maybe look into, like, JD and just kind of see how you like him. But I really don't hate the squad. I think the squad's pretty solid. But I mean, he's in the stream, so he kind of knows how I feel about a lot of these cards. Bullpen's really good. Starting staff. I mean, again, you're just in that weird spot where it's like there's no true ace for you to go out and get unless you want to splurge on Randy. And with his control, he doesn't really feel like an ace. So I think for, working with the tools you got, it's not bad. So don't mind that. And then we got lineup structure. Okay, so we'll go over his lineup structure. I mean, he's got his lefty split up. I'm not the biggest fan of only splitting them up by one. I'd probably just have Finley bat ninth. Just so, like, if your three due up next inning are Kyle Tucker, Bregman, and Finley, then they can't, bring in one lefty and get 2 outs, basically. But you're going to platoon Manny, so it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Just something to think about, like, late game. But I mean, assuming you're platooning him every time and not ever letting Tucker hit a lefty, then I don't really mind it. But pretty solid team there. It's probably like, yeah, so no real collection rewards, like mini collection for Santander. So no real collection rewards. Starting staff's kind of struggling. I think it's like 8. I think this offense is like easily World Series. Easily. Like if I ran the budget squad with the offense like this, we'd be hooping. But the problem is the pitching, right? So you're just not going to have like a true ace. 300K stubs. You want some better starters. So like, it's just tough. You already got Leiter, who I think is like the best value. We'll go through because I feel like there's been a lot of teams today that kind of have been missing starters. But I don't think I'm going to have any great answers, to be honest, because like Perry's definitely not worth locking in for. I mean, if you can, like, I do like Zimmerman, and the earlier you can put parallels on him, I think there's some value there. I mean, Kluber's not bad, but like I said, volatile on the All-Star. Logan Webb, same thing. I don't hate this Hunter Green. It just depends on how much he is. I wouldn't pay more than like 30, 40K for him. And then other than that, you're looking at like Satchel, which Satchel, you're really just paying for the outlier fastball. And then, all the other pitches are kind of junk, so it's not ideal there either. But I mean, I would go knock out the storylines and knock out the Jackie program if you haven't already, which it seems like you have, judging by him being on your bench here. So I'd go knock that out and just start working towards John, because I think he's going to be a lot of people's ace. A lot of people that don't have Clemens or don't want to pay up for Randy, that's going to be their ace. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I tried to get through teams. I thought we would legit get through every team that got submitted, but we didn't. So again, if you want to be on the next episode, submit your teams. Till next time, peace.